And joining us live from Boston, Turron Davenport covers the Titans now for ESPN. He used to cover the Eagles before that. He's a good friend of 97.3 ESPN. Always appreciate his insights. If you're not already following him, you should be following him on Twitter at @TDavenport_NFL. Also on Instagram, you get to see he did a little tour for himself around Boston. You follow my Turron Davenport on Instagram as well. Turron, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. You know, I definitely was doing the tourist thing yesterday, and I had to put some miles on these sneakers, man. So it was a good time.
You know, and I love when guys like you do. I know Keith Pompey does that with the Sixers. You know, when you guys kind of do a little, like, give people an insight into what the city is like that you guys are in. I think it's always a cool idea to give people a little insight behind the scenes, like what is going on with you guys when you're going to these different cities.
Yeah, for sure. I have kind of like a little routine that I always do, and I want to go see the sports arenas, right? I want to see a Hard Rock Cafe, and I just want to see as much of the city as possible. So I always walk the city, man, wherever I am. So it's just fun to do, and I enjoy putting the pictures there on IG, man.
I love it. So the biggest thing I got to ask you about is Ryan Tannehill. Because this is the one thing I think a lot of people, you're covering a team every day. People don't cover and watch Titans all the time. It's a bit of a head scratcher. It feels like his ascension has just come out of nowhere. A lot of people assume that Mariota would be the guy when the season started. He was actually playing all right, but then it went downhill quickly, it seems, and now Tannehill is the starting quarterback for the Titans as they head into Foxborough.
Yeah, exactly. I was one of them that thought that Mariota would be the quarterback, and just things just didn't seem to work out for him. But I tell you, when you look at Tannehill, it kind of reminds me of not this recent fight, but the one last year between Anthony Joshua and Ruiz, right? And Joshua knocked Ruiz down, and Ruiz got up and off the canvas, dusted himself off, got himself together, and he knocked Joshua out. In fact, he knocked the soul out of Joshua. Mm-hmm. So it's about the bounce back, and that's what Tannehill did. He bounced back after, hitting the canvas. I mean, the team that drafted him paid him $5 million to get away, and that opportunity that he got to just kind of sit back and observe and just think about things, it was great for him. And now you see a guy that's playing with supreme confidence. You see a guy that's making throws he has no business making, but they're successful. You see him staying on schedule. You see him moving within the pocket. You see him extending plays. He's connecting with all of the receivers. I mean, there are times where he has 10 and 11 guys catching football. So he's brought that offense to a different level, and everything is rolling with them. So I think they have good momentum, especially on the offense, coming into this game today.
I also got to think, Turron, that, a guy like Tannehill, people may not remember this, but before he got to the NFL, he was actually a wide receiver for a while in college. So this is a guy who, let's be realistic, he's only really been a quarterback for what, five years at this point. So, maybe it's more not just to do with, the team that he's on, but just where he is developing his own craft.
Yeah, I think before he even got to the Titans, he was pretty much developed. They did a lot to keep him going. I mean, they hired his offensive coordinator at A&M to be the guy there in Miami. So I think he developed as a quarterback. But see, the thing is, what gets overlooked so much is how mental this game is. And when you're feeling like you could go out there and do whatever you want to do, it just is more conducive to actually doing that. And I think that's where Tannehill is right now. There's a supreme confidence that he's playing with. So it's almost like, regardless of team, he's just playing with confidence, and that comes from within himself. Now, granted, this scheme that they're using is ideal for someone like him who isn't a volume passer. He's not the guy you want throwing 40 to 45 times, but he is able to gash teams, with that 20 to 25 pass attempts, 250, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's enough to win the game for them.
Turron, you mentioned about the mental side of the game. To me, a lot of that has to come from the head coach sometimes, and I think Vrabel has, kind of brought in a certain type of toughness as being a former player. When I watch some Titans games, it seems like he's a guy who is steady. He's not too high. He's not too low. He's a guy who keeps this team, kind of on track and not floating too one way or the other. Is that a good description of what Vrabel's been like as a head coach?
Yeah, that's a very good description of him. No moment is ever too big, and no, loss is ever too low. And he's actually on record saying something along those lines numerous times after a big win and after a tough loss. So you're right there, and that's what allows them to bounce back, and they just kind of stay even keel. And it's just what he always says is when things get rough and they get dirty, they get muddy, that's when it's to their advantage. And that's just because that's what he is, right? You look at him as a player. He was never the most athletic guy, although he was a really good athlete, but he was never the most athletic, the biggest, fastest, et cetera. But he was always that grinder, right? He was always that gritty player and found a way to make plays. So his personality as a player is definitely coming out in this team, and I think he's done a really good job. I mean, you watch him in practice, there are times where I have literally seen him work with every single position group, and actually not just work with them, but give them actual tips that you're like, wow, that definitely applies. So he's a really good coach from that perspective.
Turron Davenport joining us at Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Make sure you follow on Twitter at @TDavenport_NFL. Also on Instagram at Turron Davenport. So with the way Vrabel is he the kind of guy, maybe that perfect cut, to be that kind of guy, to go into Foxborough and take a team and win a game? We've seen a lot of these former Belichick guys, they struggle against him. He seems to have their number. Is Vrabel just a different kind of guy to be able to get this done?
Well, he absolutely is. And one of the things that you'll see is he's the only one that played for Belichick that is going back against him, right? I mean, you have, the other coaches, Patricia, et cetera, et cetera. They've gone back, Bill O'Brien, but he played for Bill Belichick. There's just a different relationship that you get there. So I think that's going to be a unique dynamic. But then also the thing that a lot of people overlook is how many other ties are on this football team, right? LV coach, Tyrone McKenzie, he played for the Patriots, right? Logan Ryan played for the Patriots. Malcolm Butler isn't playing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's traveling with the team. He played for the Patriots. Deion Lewis played for the Patriots. The defensive coordinator, Dean Pease, he won Super Bowls with the Patriots. So there's a lot of ties, between these two organizations. So I think as a group, they are familiar with what's going on. So it's a little bit different from just, having one or two coaches that were up there. You have a combination of players and coaches. So that gives them a bit of a different viewpoint than some of the previous regimes that went back and faced Belichick.
And it's interesting you bring that up because when I was watching the Belichick Saban documentary, they actually talked about how, when they have guys who used to work with them and they take coaches away from them, it hurts their own program, not just in terms of their football program, but when they have to go up against them. So you have to think that, there might be a level of Belichick that says, I got to go into this game, maybe do a little bit extra work than just the normal work I'm doing just to be ready because these guys know what I can do.
I think in this situation, just because of how this offense is, how they've been struggling, I think at this point you have to expect the unexpected. And that's what Vrabel's expecting, right? So whether it be Mohamed Sanu, who's a former quarterback before he went to college, whether it be Julian Edelman, who was, a quarterback at Kent State, or even Landon Roberts, a fullback, a linebacker playing fullback, catching the ball out of the backfield. There's going to be something. Something is going to happen, and they just have to be prepared for it. And I think they have to do these type of things. When I say they, I'm talking about the Patriots, to find some type of spark on offense. And I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that early. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that Belichick is going to put in any extra effort, but I think he'll be a little more creative, he and Josh McDaniels, on the offensive side of things. And defense, they'll just continue to do what they do there.
Speaking of the Titans defense, who is the key guy on this Titans defense that is, going to make a difference, do you think, in this game tonight?
I think tonight it's Jarrell Casey, and he's someone that they use as a stand-up edge defender. They use him playing in that 4-eye or 4 technique, right? Either right in between the guard and tackle or over top of him. And he's someone that I know Belichick is very fond of. When I see Jarrell Casey, I think the key for him is to get that pressure, right? So he's quick off the ball. He could give the lineman trouble, from the interior. And then they'll also do some stunts, right? They'll have him line up on the outside and loop him inside. And whoever that tackle is, whether it's Jeffrey Simmons or Daquan Jones, whoever is on the side that he's on, they'll crash in and he'll loop inside. So that's something that they have to do. Jarrell Casey, in my opinion, is their best interior pass rusher. And absolutely the kryptonite to Tom Brady's Superman is that interior pass rush. You want to push that pocket back and just make him have to reset and make him have to tuck the ball and not be able to step into his throws as much as he wants to.
I also know that Dory Jackson looks like he's good to go. So how important is that for the Titans? Because I know that, the Patriots don't have a lot of weapons, but the few that they do, whether it's Edelman, Sanu you mentioned, but also N'Keal Harry, these are guys that they're playmakers.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, when you have a Dory Jackson back, now you have a guy on the outside that you can absolutely trust in coverage. So you don't have to do as much as far as having a safety help over top or a linebacker underneath when you're in man defense. And what happens a lot of times when you blitz, most of the time that puts your defenders in man defense. So you're a little more comfortable as a play caller to dial up those blitzes and trust your guys on the outside. So that's a good thing. And, look, bottom line, Adoree is a pretty solid cover guy. And on top of that, here's the thing that I think is being overlooked. Adoree was the left corner. The left corner that was playing in place of Adoree was Tremaine Brock. And Brock and I, we have a history going back to when I covered the 49ers. But I'm going to be honest, and he has struggled tackling. Adoree Jackson, before he went out, that was a strong point for him. So I think you're gaining a little bit in run defense as well. So him being back is huge for the Titans. They needed him back, so it's a positive that he'll be in the lineup.
All right, Turron, one more for you. I appreciate you jumping on today on 97.3 ESPN. If the Titans win tonight, what is Turron Davenport's headline on his article on ESPN?
You never share the Wu-Tang secrets, man. No, my headline will probably be something along the lines of Derrick Henry carries the Titans to the divisional round of the playoffs, something like that. Because look, man, it's raining out there. It's muddy. It's dirty. This is the type of weather where a guy like Derrick Henry can really have an impact. Teams don't want to tackle him as it is. In this nasty weather, it makes it even more difficult. So I think if Derrick Henry is able to help this team get to the second half with the game being close, I could see them taking a lead late in the third quarter or, in the fourth quarter and just nursing it by continuing to feed the wagon, load the wagon with Derrick Henry. So I think he's the key to the Titans winning. I'm going with the Titans, 24-21.
There you go. Well, follow him on Twitter at @Davenport_NFL. Instagram, Turron Davenport. Turron, always appreciate you jumping on when you do. Glad to see you're still being successful with ESPN. It's good to see a guy like you who really grinded to get this opportunity. So keep it up, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's great to see you guys, over there in Philly, /Jersey, doing your thing as well.
Turron, catch you later.
All right.